Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 39th episode of A QISSAA with Ishika, quintessential and inspiring stories of South Asian artists, funded by the California Arts Council Individual Artist Fellow Grant. My name is Ishika Muchal, and I am coming to you from the unceded ancestral lands of the Lenape people, also known as New York City, my second episode from the Big Apple. I am so excited to welcome my guest today, choreographer, performer, and arts educator, Minila Shah. For over 25 years, Minilah shaped the landscape of Indian dance. Her expertise spans Bharatanatyam, Kathak, Bollywood, semi-classical, Garba, Raas, and Bhangra, showcasing her versatility and deep-rooted knowledge of South Asian dance. Since founding Ajna Dance Company in 2013, which is how I know her and I am lucky enough to now be a part of, Minila has been driven by a passion to share authentic Indian dance and culture in a way that resonates with diverse audiences. Today, her vision for Ajna centers on creating innovative and relevant works for her dancers while expanding the company's reach to schools, communities, and cultural spaces, harnessing the power of dance and music to educate and connect through assemblies, residencies, and more. Manilah's choreography has been featured in film, TV, music videos, and theater in London and New York. She has appeared on Good Morning America, NBC, BBC, Sky One, and ITV's Dancing on Ice. And when she's not dancing, she's passionate about yoga, vegetarian food, and exploring life in the beautiful Carroll Gardens, Brooklyn, with her husband and two daughters. I am so beyond thrilled to welcome Minila Shah. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me, Ishika. That was such a nice intro.
I mean, it's just from what your bio is. I have heard though that it is always like weird to have your bio read out loud to you. Like I would be so uncomfortable if someone read mine out loud.
Yeah, it doesn't happen often.
Yeah, but thank you so much for taking the time out to share your journey with us.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Can you tell us, let's go like all the way to the beginning of your journey. How were you first introduced to the arts and dance?
So, my parents immigrated, like so many of ours did, from India to Canada originally. And so I was born in Toronto, and my mom loved music and dancing. And so, truly, my love of dance is really not separate from sort of being my mother's daughter. So, she would always dance. She's 70 5, 4,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
she still dances. You go to parties, we'll go to events, she will be up dancing on the dance floor, but also performing. She's not a trained dancer,
Oh,
and her dream was to learn dance, to go to like study dance in Gujarat
yeah,
where she grew up back in the 50s and, she wasn't
yeah.
able to. Her family didn't deem it appropriate. There was like financial constraints, time constraints. It just was not something they were going to do. And so
Mhm.
when I was 5 in Toronto, there wasn't that many options, but my guru, who taught Bharatanatyam, my mom enrolled me in Bharatanatyam classes when I was 5 in Toronto, and that's sort of where it all started, right? It wasn't my choice. I was thrown into it. To be honest, didn't love it in the beginning because it's hard, and I was young, and it
Mhm.
requires focus and discipline, and, my teacher was traditional in her approach,
Mhm.
and really, we had to behave, we had to practice, we had to be on time. Um, but then I started to obviously grow to love it. And now I'm so grateful because my career, my livelihood, so much of my identity is based on kind of my mom's love of dance and putting
Mhm.
me into Bharatanatyam classes where I trained. And then, being Gujarati, we'd celebrate Navratri. So Garba Ras was always there.
Right.
And then we'd have these Indian associations and there'd be Diwali events or different kind of
Mhm.
cultural events, and that's when I started to choreograph as young as, like, 12 or 13, because my mom would sometimes choreograph for some of the little kids,
Mhm.
and then I was like, "Oh, I can do this," and so that's where it all began, back in the '90s or '80s in Toronto.
That's beautiful. I also started Bharatanatyam when I was 5 and definitely did not like it in the beginning. I joined Bharatanatyam because I had seen like a family friend's educator and I was like, I want to do Patyam when I was like 2 or 3. And then I joined, and like you're saying, there's so much discipline and hard work required in that dance and any classical dance, but like really gives you a solid foundation of just like artistry and dedication, I think, to dance in any art form.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it builds, like, discipline,
Mm,
rhythm, like, body awareness, body
mm,
control, like, things that you can transfer over to other movement styles.
mm,
And also for me, it really helped me connect to my culture. I'm not South Indian, I don't speak
right.
Tamil or, I don't speak any South Indian languages, but even the stories of Ganesha and Krishna and
Mhm,
Rama, it helped me connect more with my ancestry or like even the spiritual parts of
right.
the mythology, which I would, was grateful for as well, because it was sort of an
Yeah.
added side benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very multifaceted, asset, I guess you could say, that training. How you talked about Garba Raas. How did you get exposed to the different other dance styles that you have learned and do now, and how does that influence your training?
Yeah, so I feel like Bharatanatyam was sort of the foundational base of my sort of dance training
Mm,
and my repertoire, like the thing that I've probably still now done for the longest or with the most intensity.
mhm,
And then, Garba and Ras are folk dances. So we did them at celebrations, but then we
okay.
also participated in like Foga, like these Garba Ras competitions when we were
Mhm,
younger. So I remember taking part in various cultural, and I really feel like I am so grateful to my gurus and any teachers or people of that generation who kept it going, because I think
mhm,
there was less representation, less resources, less support, less funding. But, these other artists that came from India to Canada and the US still found a way to keep it, pass it down and teach the youth.
yeah,
And then for Bhangra, it's funny that that is one that I didn't do as a performance art. I just danced to Punjabi music because
mhm,
also growing up in Toronto, that's part of the culture.
right,
You know the Punjabi songs, like you grew up with this music, so you know how to dance at a
mhm,
party. But I didn't perform until I met another really wonderful dancer in Chicago, Shamala, and she had like so I moved to Chicago after college, and I was looking for an outlet for dance, and I met Shamala, and she was a Bhangra dancer, really good. And so I danced with her and we created this collective. And that's when I really honed in on like the technique of Bhangra and like the
mhm,
different movements and not just dancing at a party, but like how you would perform it. Um, so that was sort of later in life, but a fun exploration because it was still a bit out of my performance comfort zone.
sure,
And
yeah,
then Kathak is something I always wanted to learn after Bharatanatyam.
mm,
And so as an adult, I was in India, and my mom, the teacher she wanted to learn from, I went to him because I stayed there for a couple of
mhm,
extended periods. And I was like, "Can I come learn from you?" Again, this is like I was in my late 20s.
mhm,
Um, and so I lived with my grandma, and I would walk to his dance school every day. And I did like a 1 month intensive,
mhm,
just learning the basics, but every day. And I was older and I'm a dancer, so he had fun teaching me. He was
right,
80 something at the time, and he
wow,
passed several years later, but I just felt
mhm,
it was such a full circle moment to be with my grandmother in my mom's
mhm,
hometown, learning from the teacher who was an incredibly kind and gifted artist, um, you know, what she couldn't learn. And
yeah,
so that's where my Kathak journey started. And then I
mhm,
found my current Kathak teacher, Prashant Shah, who is based between India and here, with whom I still learn Kathak. And that is the one thing I still train in and do
mhm,
for myself as like just kind of continuing my journey as a student from a
yeah,
master. And I love it because there's no pressure per se. I'm not trying to achieve any sort of specific milestone,
right,
but it pushes my body, it helps me go deeper, and it keeps me learning too. Because when you're running a company and leading things, it's like you're always, you're not always learning in the same way as when you're a student.
sure, yeah, and I think, the moment we stop learning is the moment we stop growing, so
It's true.
that's
And it's
that's
like,
beautiful that you're still in practice.
yeah, I really enjoy it. And it's fun. and it helps my creativity as well in when
Mhm.
I'm working with Ajna and creating new pieces and choreographing. It's helpful to be a student on the other end because it's another input into the process.
Right, right. So when you're teaching us these very difficult dances, you know what it's like.
I do.
I'm just kidding. Um, so regarding Indian dance, I feel like it's such a vast category, right? When you say like, oh, what does Ajna dance do? It's we teach Indian dance and we share Indian dance. How would you categorize that? And specifically, how would you define what Bollywood is? Because I feel like that's such an elusive definition.
Yeah, I mean, Indian dance is so broad and like
Right.
Indian culture is not a monolith, right? Like every state, every region, even within states, there's like
Mhm.
such nuanced culture, music, food, language, dance. So I feel it's a nice label for people who are not of the culture
Mm.
because they you can at least put it in a box, like, okay,
Yeah.
Indian dance, but that's not really a thing
Yeah.
unless you consider Bollywood. But even then, there's like Nollywood and like, you know,
Mhm.
other film industries within India that are not in Bombay. Um,
Right.
so I think it's a nice umbrella. And so we try to bucket things, as you know, in Ajna as like there's like classical dances, there's folk dances, and then there's Bollywood dances.
Mhm.
And the classical dances really come from different regions. They are stylistically very unique. Um, they're rooted in history and training and discipline, and you need a guru or a teacher to really help you to guide you on that journey as a classical dancer. It's not something you can self teach
Sure.
to truly. And then the folk dances are these dances of the people, again, very regional. And you have Marathi folk dances and you have Rajasthani folk dances and Gujarat, so
Mhm.
depending on where you go, you may grow up already doing it or you may choose to learn. And some of them are harder to come by and they're
Right.
all so beautiful. And then I feel like Bollywood is maybe the closest thing you can call, I hesitate to call Indian dance because you have these other kind of more
Right.
classical and folk styles, but I define it as just like dancing to the music from the films. And
Mhm.
that music could sound very traditional, but it could also sound very contemporary, or
Right.
it could sound like hip hop or Latin or pop, because Bollywood mirrors like pop culture, like whatever's
Right.
happening, you know, in general popular culture, we'll see that come through the decades of Bollywood. So
Right.
I feel like Bollywood, what's nice about it is that it's accessible, like,
Mhm.
people who aren't classical dancers or who are not classically inclined in terms of the arts, they can still access it because
Mhm.
the music is catchy, it's relatable, it's in film, so it's produced in a way that it's
Right.
easy. And then we can use that to really bring people in and then introduce them to some of these other things, or use
Mhm.
Bollywood music that is, classically based or influenced or folk based or influenced.
Right.
So that's where I feel it's a nice invitation.
Hmm, yeah, yeah, that's beautiful because I feel like each form of the dances that you've mentioned, like classical, folk, Bollywood, they all have storytelling as like a key element to them, and that is a part integral to dance. But I feel like what you're saying with the access, it's a lot easier for people to relate to the stories from Bollywood because it's like pop, it's not necessarily rooted in mythology or like traditions that people might not be familiar with. So it is a very open, common experience Indian dance through, like, the movie industry way. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
beautiful.
that's right, and I think the work we do, we're often working with people who may not have exposure to South Asian culture,
Right.
um, or at all. They might or they might not, but it's nice to cover some different ground because I do feel
Mm,
it is important to talk about India not as a monolith and as a really regional, and sometimes we'll talk about like the subcontinent and like Pakistan, Bangladesh, like this was all one
right.
country, you know,
Mhm.
depending on how old the kids are and the audiences and how deep we want to get. But, you
Right.
know, we also want to represent students from other parts of South Asia as best that
Mhm.
we can in the most honest way that we can, when we're
Yeah,
working with a lot of these schools in New York that have a diverse population.
absolutely. Yeah, can I ask you, to shift the conversation a little bit, uh, choreography wise, I know you started when you were like 12, 13. What is your process of approaching a song? Like, do you pick the song first and that's like, okay, I really want to I want to choreograph this? Is it based on like the season, the time? Do you get inspired by the dancers or do you do the choreography and then put it on the dancers? What is your process like?
It's a real combination,
Mhm,
and it really is seasonal. But for me, the music really drives the movement,
mhm,
especially in if you're using like Bollywood music or
mhm,
instrumental tracks. So, like, if I hear something and I just like it moves me,
mhm.
and I can close my eyes and I can imagine like moving to that music.
Yeah.
For me, like, just connecting to the music, the lyrics, the
Mhm,
feeling of the song, and then I start to play with, like, is this gonna be more classically influenced? If so, it's like
mhm.
Kathak, Bharatanatyam. Is it some sort of combination? Is it more contemporary? Is it just fun Bollywood, like, hip
Right.
shaking? I do also another factor are the artists and the dancers in the company and
Mhm,
their strengths and like what we can pull from their styles. And they inspire me too, because
mhm.
in rehearsal, someone may do a step like in a way that is like so interesting and so different than how I intended. But I'm like, oh, that
Right,
works. Like, let's go with that.
right,
You
right.
know, we're lucky that we have such a talented pool of artists who
Mhm,
are also many of them, educators and choreographers in their own right. So I do think the team and the company also really inspires the movement, but also helps to kind of tweak it because we're
mhm.
working with different energies and different movement styles.
Right, yeah, like, it's a living choreography, it's not set in stone until it's set in stone.
That's right. And
Yeah.
even then, we're like, "Was it? Should we change?" And then everyone's like,
Yeah,
"Don't change it."
not
So
not now, not that we started. Yeah,
exactly.
so since we're talking about Ajna, what was your impetus of starting that, and what were some of, like, the early struggles and celebrations that you had with that process?
I think like anyone who's found any sort of like success in their journey as an artist or an entrepreneur, there's like so many people before me
Mhm,
that paved the way for me, right? Like this wasn't just my doing. So I'm so grateful to like any teachers, dance teachers I had, mentors, people who took chances on me, who hired me for things, you
mhm,
know, that they all contribute in a way to your path. And so when I lived in London, I met another amazing woman, Vandana, who had her own Bollywood dance company.
right,
And when I moved to London, I found her online and I was working a day job. And I just reached out to her, like, hey, do you need additional dancers or teachers? And she's like, come meet me. And so she was like, yeah, why don't you teach? So I remember I was like teaching and performing
mhm,
when I had time, like outside of work hours, essentially. And then there was a scenario where she left London and I
mhm,
continued to run her company. And that kind of inspired me when I came to New York to really start something of my own because I was able, prior to that, my career, my livelihood had been like working in an office
right,
at a desk, and then dance had been my like side thing. And
mhm,
that experience with Vandana and in London kind of gave me a glimpse into like, oh, I can do this too.
mhm,
Um, so when I came to New York, I didn't really know many people at all. And I didn't have a network here of artists or dancers or just people because I
mhm,
didn't go to college here. I didn't go to school here. Um, it took me some time, but I felt like after being in London, where there's so much South Asian culture kind of embedded into English culture,
right,
I was like, okay, New York, America, we're behind, but there's an opportunity. So
mhm,
when I started Ajna, I just knew I could make it work. I didn't know exactly what that would look like. So
sure,
I started at that time, this is in like 2012, 2013. There wasn't it's not like today. We're spoiled now because there's so many amazing South Asian dancers in the
right,
city and in the country
mhm,
globally. Like, and with social media, you're able to access people and
right,
people are doing such incredible like crossover work, creating new genres, like mixing kind of classical styles with more contemporary styles in really interesting ways.
right,
There's so many class options. There's just a lot more talent and people pursuing art as
Yeah.
South Asians, which didn't exist as much even like 13, 14 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so I started teaching. I found some other dancers that were interested in joining the company. We started performing. We
Mhm.
taught kids classes. We did I just did everything. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
let's just do everything. And then as time went on, I evolved as an artist, as an entrepreneur. My life changed. I had kids. I
Mhm.
started to see like, what do I like? What do I enjoy? What is meaningful to me? And then what you realize is like, if you try to do everything, it's like hard to do something. You know what I'm saying? And I
I feel so cold out. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so I was like, okay, let me stop doing some things to really
Mhm.
focus on like one or two key things
Yeah.
that I enjoy and that like I can build on in a meaningful way. And that's
Right.
sort of how we've evolved to what Ajna is today.
Mhm. Yeah. Can you dive a little deeper into, like, I guess, like, the logistical infrastructure side of running a dance company? I feel like most of the people who would be watching or listening see, like, the output, but not, like, what goes into making it possible logistically. So can you share, like, what type of members are on your team? What goes into making all of these gigs and etcetera possible?
Yeah, I think we're like a little bit not non-traditional, but there's almost like the arts education piece of the company and then the performance piece. And
Right.
sometimes they cross over.
Mhm.
Um, and we are so lucky to have such a solid team because the truth is, like, Ajna would not be what it is without the people that
Mhm.
are a part of the company, the artists, the dancers, the people that are, assisting in rehearsal, coordinating gigs, the
Mhm.
back end team. It's
Right.
really like it's a multifaceted operation now, which is again, like you said, people are like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you have a dance thing. That's cool." And I'm like,
Right.
"No, you don't understand." But we're lucky that there is
Mhm.
such a demand for the work that we're doing, and our work is so solid that
Right.
people want to keep hiring us and bringing us into their spaces. And so we have a team of people who work kind of on the back end, right?
Right.
Logistics, coordination. Let's say this Holy, for example, there may be a week where we are going to be in over 30 different schools in the same week,
Mhm.
potentially 40. Who knows what that number looks like?
Right.
So, who's going where? What's their costume? What are they performing? Have we got the work order or the invoice? Are
Mhm.
we, do we have the invoice from the artist? So, there's like, there's managing our partners who are bringing us in,
Right.
managing our artists. So, there's like the back end team that does all of that. And
Yeah.
then we have lead artists. One of our members just had a baby. Congratulations,
Yeah.
Alicia. Um, so Alicia's role, and now Georgia's stepping in, and then we have day of leads. So it really is a team effort because you can't scale and grow to the place that we have without lots of amazing team members. So like I thank my lucky stars and I'm just grateful every day because this doesn't happen with one person's work. It really is like a effort of every person on every part of like from the inquiry of like, "Hey, can you come share your work here?" to like the artist going and doing it. There's like
Right.
so many steps involved.
Yeah. Yeah, and thank you for sharing that because, like I was saying in the beginning, I feel like people just see, like, the performance video, like those 30-second clips and not all the effort and the coordination and everything that goes in the back end of it, and as someone who's worked a lot in, like, producing and arts admin, I'm a big fan of making that visible, so thank you
It's
for sharing
important,
that.
and I
Yeah,
think having a business background, like I'm also quite organized and like
right.
I like things to be a certain way, and I do feel like people will treat you as a professional if you operate as professionals. And
Absolutely.
that's coming from me all the way down to the artist, right? This is not a fun hobby. These are like professional artists doing professional work. And so we have to operate that way and we can command the same respect back of like, hey, look, like,
Yeah,
and that's why I feel I have so much pride and integrity in our work. Um, that it's come to a point now where I'm like, okay, we can say no to lots of things, or not lots of things, but things that don't align with our values and our culture
Right.
and like what we're trying to do as an organization. And it's a nice place to be, to
Yeah.
have the choice.
Right. Yeah, artistic agency. Once
Yeah,
you
and
get
like
it, it's nice.
yeah, and I just think it's important that the artists are treated respectfully. Like I think
Mhm.
it's a baseline expectation, but not everybody has the same ideas, you know?
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah, I wanna go back to what you were talking about, how in the beginning when you founded Ajna, like, 12, 13 years ago, um, how there wasn't that level of South Asian dance popularity, and I wanna talk about it from at that time. That was, like, when I was in, high school, middle school era, and I never got anything like this in school, like how we do assemblies and residencies. That was not available to me, and so can you talk about, like, the level of representation this brings and, like, how we foster South Asian representation really early in schools and what that can mean for kids to, like, see themselves represented or just know about this culture?
I think like you hit the nail on the head. It's like the earlier you are exposed to different cultures, the more open-minded you're going to be,
Right.
right? It's just a default. And the more you're going to feel connected to something. And music and dance are such an easy way to bring people into the culture. And what
Yeah.
I found was that in New York, given and in America, right, we're a meaningful part of the population, and there
Right.
just wasn't enough representation in schools of South Asian culture. And again, now I have 2 kids who are in school in New York, and it's important for me for them to be seen and
Mhm.
celebrated and represented. Um, and I just think we hear these stories from kids in the schools that we go to all the time. Their parents will send us a message and be like, my daughter or son was there and they talked about it and they were so happy to share the music and they
Yeah.
said they, visited Pakistan or India and like it to hear the feedback from the kids and the parents of what it
Mhm.
means to them, it reaffirms because I
Mhm.
agree like just you may not be in the most diverse school. But if your culture is represented and celebrated, you feel seen,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I think it's important. There's no reason in 2026 in New York, like, we can't do that.
Right. Yeah, and that's why I'm just, like, having this, like, 10, 15 years ago when I was in school would have been such a gift because I feel like an assembly, anything that your school validates in that much of, like, a professional sense is unothering you, right, in a way?
Exactly. Yep.
And what would I have given to have been unothered by my educational institution that I was in and not feel like, "Oh, I have to be the only South Asian person in my entire educational journey," you know? So,
Yeah.
I'm just, like, appreciative of all organizations that do this, and before I moved to New York, I also did, like, assemblies as well about, like, South Asian dance and theater, so I just really see the impact, and I'm grateful for all the artists like you who have created that platform.
Yeah, thank you. That means a lot. And I agree, like, imagine this was in your school, right? Like, you
Yeah,
feel differently because then
yeah,
your friends are like, "Oh, that's so interesting," or like,
right.
I when we did the assembly at my kids' school, I went and performed, and it was just, like, fun also to be on
Yeah.
stage and, you know, the kids, you can see they feel proud, and they feel unothered, and I think that's it's just, like, it's a given that
Yeah,
they should feel that way.
yeah, absolutely. So you dance, you choreograph, you're a founder, you do so many things. Uh, what are the specific lessons that you feel like you've learned from each aspect of your career?
Oh my god, so many lessons.
I know that's a
I'm
big one.
still learning. I'm still learning. I don't know that we have all the answers, but I think
Mhm.
also becoming a mom, right? Like managing parenthood with just a career. I think any parent, and I wanna say, like, mothers often feel it more, is, like, you're just
Mhm.
constantly it's just an always, like, what the opportunity cost. Like, am I gonna work an extra hour? Am I
Yeah,
gonna spend that with my kids? Am I gonna meal prep? Am I gonna there's just,
right.
like it doesn't end, so I try to just be present
Mhm,
where I am in that moment because
mhm.
something's gotta give. The to-do list is never complete. but I want to lean in and I'm trying, and this is more like life lessons, but just being off my phone, I think helps. So when I'm with my kids, like really trying, because it's hard. It's so
Yeah.
sneakily addictive. It works. So just having it in a different room so I can be present with
Uh-huh.
them when I'm with them. Um, and when I'm working, same thing. Like I just need to have like focused time where I'm not interrupted by the pings and the tings. So I think
Yeah.
managing device usage is just helpful in life.
Mm.
Um, I think hiring amazing people and treating them well.
Mhm.
Again, like Ajna is what it is because of the people,
Right.
and I value those people. I have gratitude for those people. I respect everyone in the company, and I try my best to treat people well. I
Mhm.
think it's the right thing to do, but they're also contributing to this
Yeah.
the larger success of Ajna, like South Asian culture, like representation. We're all like giving what we have. And,
Mm.
I know people are hustling, they're working multiple jobs. Like it's not easy
Yes.
being an artist in New York,
Yeah.
and I can appreciate that. So I do my best. And I
Yeah.
think we as an organization really try to
Mm.
support our artists. Um,
Yeah.
I think the other lesson is just like not getting in your own way too much. Cause I think a lot of
Mhm.
the issues we have are just self-doubt or like imposter syndrome, like things where
Mhm.
you like mentally block your own progress.
Mhm.
So I think just having some awareness of that and trusting your instinct, like not being afraid to try something new or speaking up or
Mhm.
like kind of going with your gut. I think the
Yeah.
gender norms and societal norms, like I think for women, you have to work even harder
Mhm.
to, express yourself freely.
Yeah. Yeah. Work twice as hard to get half as far, for sure. Oh yeah. Yeah, on that note, I actually wanted to go back to what you were saying about like motherhood and a career because I feel like, you know, it's my big pet peeve when people ask in interviews women like how do you balance this and they don't ask men. They're just like talking about the career itself. Um, but I edit this podcast called The Motherlands and they talk a lot about it's done by a doula, and she interviews a lot of guests who are in the motherhood birth space. And she interviewed one person who was talking about like the mental load of just what you were saying about like, do I meal prep? Do I spend time with my kids? How do I do this? How do I do this? And yeah, it's so fascinating, and I have so much admiration for people who balance that and are whoever able to like give back to their family, the community, and themselves. And I feel like you do that so gracefully. So just
Thank you. Thank you. And
admire.
like, I do feel I'm privileged, right? Like we can get a babysitter. Like
Mhm.
my husband has a stable job. Like I do feel I also have to like check myself.
Sure,
I
sure.
think it's important to be honest with the help that you have and like
Mhm.
whatever privilege, whatever that looks like. But it's not easy. It's
Right.
funny. Like it's the mental load is real. And
Mhm.
I've never been an anxious person. I've never really had like anxiety, so to speak,
Mhm.
really until like the demands of motherhood with like this thriving arts organization. Like they're all good things. They're all things
Mhm.
I'm grateful for. But it's things you're managing, things you have to get done.
Right.
Like someone is sick, birthday, just the list is endless.
Yeah.
So it's also just like having comfort with not getting things done and
Yeah.
like not wanting the house to be perfectly tidy and like
Right.
everything to be because it's like who is that for? But whether it's conditioning, whether it's personality, like I
Mhm.
want things to be a certain way. But again,
Mhm.
like I'm in my own way because no one else cares. So like I'm
Mhm.
stressed about something that only I care.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
But I do feel, I celebrated a birthday not too long ago and I was telling
Mhm.
the friends that I was with is that I just feel very fortunate for the life that I have, for the work that I do, my family, like living in this city that I still truly love with all my heart.
Yeah.
I love living in New York. It's like it's a gift.
Mhm.
Is it hard? Yes. And do I get sick of it sometimes? Also, yes. But love it. Uh, my kids are healthy. I get to build this company with amazing people. Like I'm healthy.
Yeah.
Perspective is really important because it's hard sometimes. Like when you
Yeah.
get focused on things that are challenges or like
Mhm.
things that you wish could be easier or better.
For sure. Like trapezing through the snow right
Yeah,
now.
I know. I mean, you're from California, so I'm from
Yeah,
Canada, so it's a little different. I was like, I remember this from my childhood. You, on the other hand,
this is very new. This is very foreign. I'm like, "What am I doing?" But I
honestly, if you haven't lived in New York for 10 years or more, it's new
yeah,
because we haven't had this. But
that's very true. Yeah,
yeah.
I think the first, like, couple days of the snow, I'm just like, "Wow, wow, the flurry outside," and then I'm like, "Must trek through this."
Well,
Yeah.
especially because it didn't melt for, like, so
No,
long, that first one,
no,
and then it
no.
just got gross.
Mhm, mhm. If anyone in California, you're so lucky. You're so lucky.
You're
Count
very
your
lucky.
yeah.
Yes.
But, can you take us through, like, what a day in the life looks like for you? I know that's a very crazy question to ask any artist because it's so different, but just, like, a typical day.
Yeah, I mean, mornings are, like, kid time, breakfast, making
Mhm,
lunch, getting them out the door, like, until around 8:15. Like, usually, my husband will drop them off, but sometimes I'll drop them off, and then by after 8:15, I can sort of take a breath and, like, figure out my day. It's sort of a combination of, like, meetings with the team,
mhm,
spending time in the studio if I need to work on anything, trying to get in some more, like a workout or like strength training or movement for myself,
mhm,
um, like working on projects, proposals, like reaching out to new potential partners. So a lot of like
mhm,
behind the scenes work,
mhm.
troubleshooting. There's just like always things coming up.
Right.
Um, and then kids are back, and then it's like evening routine, taking to their activities, making dinner. And then in the evenings, I am not the like, usually once my kids go to bed, I'm sort of done with work and just, like,
Mhm.
thinking too hard. But if there's, like, something interesting or fun, I can, like, listen to music or come up with ideas for, like, our next pieces. That I can do, but I can't, like, sit and, like, do deep thinking work
Sure.
after, like, 8:30 PM, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
That
trying to read more and, like, it ebbs and flows, but that also helps to just, like, calm the nervous system, and then just get ready for bed. So it's the
yeah.
day then we have rehearsals, Monday, Wednesday, but that really ebbs and flows with the seasons.
Mhm.
So it's quite seasonal too, like
Right.
a typical day. But that's it. Basically, a mix of working, parenting, and creating.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I feel like that's, like, the dream day. I wish I had the ability to turn off after 8:30. I feel like maybe I just never adjusted to the time change, and I'm still operating on PST.
Do you go to bed late?
Yeah, unfortunately. I feel like I click into my most productive after, like, 9 PM.
Yeah, I feel like my husband's similar. Like
Mm.
I more productive in the morning. Like in the
Mhm.
night, I'm kind of just ready to be cozy.
Yeah,
Yeah, like, I don't wanna, like my best ideas aren't co I'm like, "Okay, let's wind down." But
right.
I think it's you know, do you at least get enough rest? Because I think that's also very important.
Theoretically, yeah. We'll see, we'll see. I do wake up later. I feel like I switched since, like, college and growing up. I used to be such a morning person, but whenever creativity strikes.
Yeah, exactly. And you
Yeah,
have the flexibility to stay up
yeah,
late
yeah, I do.
for now.
For now, yeah. Do you would you say that your art has shaped your identity and your identity has shaped your art? And if so, can you expand on that?
I think it's hard to separate the 2,
Mhm,
because I think you create a lot from your own experience, your own life experience, like, also just what you've been exposed to goes into what you create. So
right.
I feel like I can't imagine them being separate?
Mhm,
Yeah, it's an
yeah,
interesting question.
yeah. And do you feel like that at all was, like, a part of your developing your trust in your artistic voice at all?
I think so. I
Okay.
think so. Because like, I also just you start to know as you get more seasoned of, like, what are your strengths? What
Mhm,
are I'm not good at everything, but I know what I can do beautifully and what I like doing. So I also know what I'm not good at, you
mhm.
know? And
Yeah,
I'm not trying to, like I would love to learn from other artists in those genres to like pull a little bit, but I know like where my strengths and my creativity, like really where it lies.
Right. Yeah, that's beautiful. I feel like that's something that definitely artists, multi-hyphenates, I'm always just thinking about, like, what am I for sure good at? And what am I for sure working on right now, you know? So, it's definitely a process of figuring out what that ratio is.
And it does evolve a little over time,
Mhm.
right? But I think there's some things that are just
Yeah.
like rooted in your like foundation that you just like, you can do with your eyes closed. Like I got this. And then
Okay.
other things might get added to that bucket over time.
Mhm. Yeah. Um, a question that I like to ask all my guests, because we are all South Asian, is what do you think constitutes a South Asian story, and how do you think that we can both honor and expand that label?
What is a South Asian story?
Or like what can be considered South Asian art, and how do you honor and expand that?
I think it's such a broad spectrum. I think if you consider it South Asian art, like,
Mhm.
I don't know anyone who's like trying to be something they're not.
Sure.
I think most people are rooted in a place of like authenticity. But I think just having spaces up, like supporting other artists, whether it's like in any art form, visual art, music, dance, poetry, like stand up, whatever it is someone's pursuing, I think be showing up and supporting them, buying the tickets, going to the shows, like doing what you
Mhm.
can. I don't know, it's funny because when I grew up, there was just way less South Asian people pursuing the arts, be it
Right.
acting, singing, dancing, painting, so many things.
Yeah.
Poetry. Like we are so lucky, and I feel like my kids are lucky now because there's a lot more people that are incredible pursuing it. And
Right.
I feel like it's hard to define. 'Cause some
Yeah.
people will be like, "Oh, well, that's not South Asian enough," or "You are South Asian,
Mhm.
but you're not doing enough." But I don't know, I feel like it's hard to make everyone happy.
Yeah, I guess that's why I'm asking this question, because I'm always interested to hear what people think. I Have you seen the movie American Fiction?
No, wait, what's it about?
It's about this, Black writer who writes a book, and he's commissioned to write.
Oh, yes,
Eh
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah, and that kinda made me think a lot about, like, this balance of pigeonholing versus expanding, and,
Yeah.
like,
I
is
mean, I
my
you make a fair point, yes.
Yeah,
I don't like ideally, we're not feeding, like, tropes and stereotypes, right? Like
right,
but the thing is, for some people, that might be their, like, authentic art,
right, yeah,
So, like, I'm with you, it's tricky.
mhm,
And, like but I do think you can't speak for all South Asians because
exactly,
it's such a monolith, and so, like, I don't think you can say Indians feel this way and Indians but
mhm,
that's not a thing.
right,
We're very different, and we
yeah,
have different views, beliefs, um,
mhm,
inclinations, like, so I just think to be careful not to think that you're representing this huge, diverse culture through
mhm,
whatever lens it is that you're working through. I think you have to be very clear,
yeah,
especially when your audience is, like, not South Asian and who
right,
may not understand, like, the nuances. So I
mhm.
I see your point.
Yeah, I'm just curious about, like, what different people think about this, because for me, I ask it more for, like, a personal as someone who identifies as a South Asian artist, principle of, like, a lot of the time earlier on in my which is still early career, I was like, "Oh, if I'm not like I'm brown, right? So I have to make work that's about being brown." And then I was like, "Wait, I can just make work that's, like, about being Ishika,
That's
and
right.
that's enough," you know? So,
I think
just
that's true.
finding that balance is such, like, an interesting thing, I think, as an artist of color, regardless of what type of artist you are, like, what you identify as, because so often I feel like we are seen as, like, ambassadors for our cultures, right? And we're seen as, like, what you say and what you do represents everyone who looks like you. So, and I think definitely, like, I have the privilege because of trailblazers like yourself and people that came before you and before me to have that freedom to just create and be like, it's mine, so it's good enough, you know? But I'm always just like curious about what people think about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good perspective, and I
Mhm.
think you're right. It's generational, right? Like, people that
Mhm.
came before us gave us this almost privilege to have the question, like,
Right.
to
Yeah,
even be able to be like, "Oh, is this about me? Is this about being brown? Like, is it,"
exactly.
where um, but
Yeah.
I think, like, as you get more comfortable with who you are, like, it becomes easier,
Mhm.
and then you feel less pressure to, like, I don't know, answer for all the Indians.
Sure, sure. Yeah. We are many people. We are a
We are a
huge
billion
diaspora.
people plus.
There's a lot. Yeah. Yeah. Well, moving to a slightly less theoretical question, um, what are some of the changes? I guess this is theoretical, but what are some of the changes that you would like to see in the entertainment industry and specifically in dance? And that can be in any way.
Changes. I mean, I just feel like the gender, like, any sort of wage pay gap, like, that to me still feels, like, painful. Like, I was
Yeah.
reading something about the Olympics and how, like,
Hmm.
the president was like, "Ha ha, let's invite the women," and it's like,
Yeah.
"Stop. Just, like,
Yeah.
stop saying stuff like this when most of the gold medals were won by women." Like,
Right. Yeah.
I feel like I'm a woman, I have 2 girls, also I'm a human being, and, like, I
Yeah.
feel in the arts and in dance, like, there's gotta be, like, equity and equality, like, there's just
Hmm.
in pay, in how you're treated. In South Asian dance, I just wanna keep seeing people do cool stuff. Like,
Hmm.
I feel like there's so many amazing dancers now, and creators, and I'm like, I just I am someone as a classically trained artist, I look for depth and I think what's tricky is, like, on Instagram, like, anyone can be a choreographer, anyone can,
Hmm.
whereas I think before the bar was higher, or, like, you couldn't just film yourself and put it out there.
Right.
And then there's pros and cons, but I just think there's people really studying and training hard and, like, doing the work,
Yeah.
and I feel that that really creates something has, like, longevity and, like, a lasting impact. There's also
Yeah.
just, like, entertaining TikTok dances, and that's, like, its own thing, you know? Um,
Yeah.
I also just think artists getting paid fair in general, just, for people to understand that you're not paying for a 5-minute dance.
Right.
You're paying for years of training, choreography, rehearsals, studio
Mhm.
space, costumes, like, physical therapy.
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes in, and I feel like in other industries, it's not the same, so I
Mhm.
think just, like, an artist valuing themselves and not doing things for free, and, like,
Yeah.
again, when you're starting out, I understand, but
Mhm.
it's a service, it's a professional thing, and so I think
Yeah.
just supporting each other by, like, not letting you know, demeaning the value of it. I also
Mhm.
understand you're starting out and you gotta pay rent, like, you gotta do what you gotta do,
Right.
but I would love to just see more um,
Mhm.
fair compensation, treatment, and
Mhm.
respect for, like, how hard it is to be in the arts and to be an artist.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, please, and also, like, people not cutting our funding because it's already so small.
I mean, yes,
Please.
I know.
And
Yeah, there's
deep
so many
sigh.
things. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, since this podcast is called A QISSAA with Ishika, and QISSAA means episode, I want to ask you if there is an influential episode in your life that you could share that really shaped you as either a person or an artist or both.
I think, you know, this is, like, gonna go back, like, 4 steps to go forward, a few, but so my I grew up in Toronto. I was born and raised in Markham, Ontario. I
Mm,
lived there till I was 16, and then my parents and I moved to Naperville, a suburb of Chicago, when I was a junior in high school, and my brother never moved with us because he started college that year at the university in Canada.
mm,
And I say this because that at 16, moving was really tough. I think it's a tough age to move, but then to
Yeah.
move from the kind of society I lived in Toronto or in Markham to Naperville, it's just like polar opposites. Like
Mm.
somewhere that was really diverse, and like Canadian culture is just about celebrating our differences, and like
Yeah.
we celebrated Chinese New Year at my school and Diwali back then. Like I
Mm.
never felt othered, truly.
Mm.
And then I went to Naperville, and at that time there wasn't that many South Asians. It's different now.
Right.
Um, and so I say this because that move was very difficult,
Mm.
and I had to start over, and it was hard for me. And
Yeah.
I was someone who always made friends easily, and I was it was easy for me to be around people. And
Mm.
this period I was like, "Oh, this is not great." And I say this because of that experience, I went back to Canada for college, and then I
Mm.
moved back to Chicago, and then I moved to London, and then I moved to New York. And I think being uncomfortable with that initial change, the
Mhm.
discomfort of starting over, helped me to do it again and again and take risks. So even starting Ajna was a risk.
Mhm.
Moving all these times was risky. But I think what I realized is fine, like I'll be okay. Like I can do this.
Yeah.
I can do hard things. And I think that that's just translated into um, how I even started Ajna, and why.
Yeah.
And even changing directions and being like, okay, we're gonna not go this, we're gonna this way. So I think
Mhm.
when you do something uncomfortable, it can help shape you,
Mhm.
because in the moment it feels painful,
Yeah.
and like you're like, "Oh, I wish this never happened." But actually, because that happened, like many other things happened.
Mhm. Oof, I really needed to hear that right now. Yeah, that's so beautiful, just, like, being willing to take a leap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like usually the downside isn't as bad as you think.
Mhm.
And also, like some things comes out of whatever leap you're taking, whether it's the
Right.
you land the places you intended to land, or like somewhere a little different. But I think that
Mhm.
like that's how you keep growing too.
Yeah. Where you land and you jump and you land up in physical therapy, but that's
Yeah.
how
Yes,
it
yes. Also been there.
Yeah, me too, yeah. Well, do you have any advice that you would share for younger South Asian artists?
I mean, I wanna give something, like, meaningful, because it's, like, all the cliche stuff, right, of, like, take risks, like,
Right.
represent yourself, like, be bold, be
Mm,
creative. But I think listen to your voice
mm,
and, like, follow your instinct.
mm,
I think it's so easy to doubt yourself,
yeah,
but if you don't try, you'll never know. And if you try, who knows what could happen. And I think like being in a city like New York, you can appreciate this. Like people will give you a chance. If you
yeah,
show up, they will give you a chance. Now it's your opportunity to crush it or kill it or lose it. But
right,
like you have to have the courage to go out there and take a chance. And I think we
yeah,
need more art. We need more artists that
mm,
represent all of us. Like it's part of like the full spectrum of life, and it like helps you in so many ways. So like
mm,
I want people to pursue it, in a meaningful way.
yeah, that's really beautiful, and I have discovered that in New York, it's like, if you want something, you will bump into it.
Yeah, and you got to
Definitely.
work, you got to
Yeah,
hustle, but
yeah,
like you can make it happen. It really is like you can make things happen here, but you got to put yourself out there.
absolutely, and what you were saying about, like, we need more art and people to tell, like, the stories of everyone. I have really discovered that, especially through stand-up, that, like, the personal is universal, you know? And just, like, t to make and someone will fill a scene.
It's true. And,
Yeah.
like, every people can relate to
Mhm.
whatever it is.
Yeah. Can you tell us about anything that you're currently working on or where people can or where people can find your work?
I mean, right now, we're, like, as you know, deeply getting ready to celebrate Holi and spring, which we are so ready for.
Please.
We will be at the Brooklyn Children's Museum on April 25th doing
Okay.
the most fun Holi celebration. It's for families, but it ends with a huge color Holi celebration with a DJ and a Doli, and it's really fun. So like it, and you wear all white and you leave as a rainbow. Um, so that's on the 25th at the Children's Museum. We have various other events coming up. Just follow us on social. We're
Mhm.
trying to get better. If anybody's watching wants to help, please let us know. That is not the thing I'm the best at. But
What is our social media?
it's
What?
at AJNA Dance, Ajna Dance on Instagram and Facebook. We're not on TikTok. I know. I'm sorry. I feel like it's too much. It's, can't
I'm
do
not
it.
either. I can't.
Yeah. I was like, I don't even have it because I'm like, I know myself. I will hours.
Yeah.
Um, someone just asked any advice for teenagers, and I saw that, and I think that it kind of lends nicely to this talk about social media. Is that put your phones down and like talk to
Mhm.
people, go experience things. Find a restaurant without going on Instagram. Like, I feel like I
Yeah.
traveled in Europe and other places before smartphones were a thing, and it
Mhm.
was so glorious to stumble and discover something. And I
Yeah.
just think people shouldn't lose the art of face to face and personal communication because ultimately that's what we have, you know? And I think teenagers sometimes now surprise me. Some of them are so articulate and so, and then you have the other spectrum where you're like, can't look you in the eye.
Yeah.
So I think we just have to remember
Right.
that like our life is not being lived on this. Like we're
Yeah.
here. Be here. Don't have to film everything. You don't have to share everything, you know? And I
Yeah.
think that's my, old lady advice because I think it's important.
No, I agree, and I'm literally talking to a mirror right now.
I know. And
Yeah, I feel
yeah,
that.
we'll have lots of exciting things coming up for the summer. We're
Mhm.
trying it's summer, it's only February. So just follow us,
Mhm.
support us, come through.
Yeah.
Um, you will enjoy any of our performances. Our artists are amazing. Our workshops are super fun. I'm so proud of our team and the work that we do. So if you can just stay attuned so that
Yeah,
you can show up whenever it's possible.
absolutely. Use your phone to follow Ajna, and that's it.
That's
Then
it.
put it
I
down.
mean, you can use it for other things, but maybe
Yeah,
set a limit, a
yeah.
timer,
Oh, I have
don't ignore
yeah.
it, which I do, 15 more
Me
minutes.
too.
I'm
Me
like,
too.
"Why do I have the time?"
I know.
But
Yeah.
it's like shows good faith effort. I think
Mhm.
I wanna get one of those, like, brick things where you can just, like, lock up your phone.
Oh, that's needed at this
I
point.
know, I know. I haven't done it yet, but it's possible.
Mhm. Well, next rehearsal, we're gonna come with the bricks.
Let's
It's
go
gonna
with the
happen.
brick.
All right. Thank you so much for taking the time out to share your journey and your advice and your insight and expertise with everyone that's listening and with me. I've learned so much and happy to know you and happy to work with you.
Yeah, and likewise, it's been such a joy to have you in the company and to get to know you and to support your work as a multi hyphenate. I'm proud of you, if it needs to be said, to move cross country and to pursue all the things you're pursuing in New York. It's not easy. So I see you and I appreciate you and I'm proud of you. And keep going.
Thank you. Oh,
Yeah.
appreciate it. Okay, before I start crying, thank you so much for tuning in, everyone, and stay tuned for the next episode of A QISSAA with Ishika to be announced very soon.